Welcome back to another episode of Cable Chatter. Thanks for tuning in this evening or bringing us up on YouTube or Facebook. We've got some neat topics to talk about today. It's a pleasure to be back in front of the camera and stand on the shoulders of those greats before me, John Schmidt, Rick Clear, Nick Poling, and those folks that did Cable Chatter before. My grandma told me that she didn't know what was going on in Randolph County and the community and wanted somebody to kind of fill her in, and so here I am. And I figured everybody else could use the information as well. We've got a neat program for you today, but I want to start off with some community announcements. On Thursday, August 19th, there'll be a Cultivating Community meeting at the Randolph County Fairgrounds from 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. It's going to be a really neat event. I really recommend people to kind of come out and get a chance to share what they think about the things that are happening in the community and the county and get their voices heard. And I think there's even going to be free food, so definitely come check it out. On Sunday, August 22nd, the Citizens of Glory will be holding a concert at Goodrich Park at 9:30 a.m. On Saturday, August 28th, there will be a Cook and Bell concert at Goodrich Park from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. On Friday, September 3rd, Levi Driscoll concert will also be at Goodrich Park from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, September 4th and 5th, the King of the High Banks at Winchester Speedway featuring super late model sprint cars, modifieds, Vors compacts, and more will be occurring. Gates will open at 10 a.m. each day. On Saturday, September 4th, Andy Study concert at Goodrich Park, 7 to 10. Wednesday, September 15th, there'll be a free movie at the Town Square Cinema for seniors from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. All weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, September 17th, 18th, and 19th will be the U.S. Highway 32 yard sale. So drive some miles, get some good deals, have a good time. And every Saturday, August 21st, 28th, September 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th, the Winchester Farmers Market will be occurring on the downtown square from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. On Saturday, September 25th, the Big Ginger Band will be playing at Artisan Park from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I'm certain there's a lot more going on in Randolph County than what I have on this list and what I've seen. So I recommend watch Facebook, Twitter, and Randolph County United website and the various different places to see what's going on and really take a chance to explore Randolph County and enjoy what we have to offer. Today, I have the opportunity to not just be in this chair, but be in one of the other chairs. We'll be discussing the Randolph Eastern Broadband Tower, Broadband Initiative, and kind of digging into how that came about and what different things that brings to Randolph Eastern, to the students that are here, and to our area. But it'd be a little odd if I interviewed myself, so I have another gentleman that's going to be coming on and taking this chair. But right now we're going to cut to some footage of the dedication that happened back in March. You get a chance to see that. Hopefully you don't have to hear me a second time on there, but get a chance to check out some of the events that happened and the neat things that happened on that day.
I'm very blessed and fortunate to work with an incredible team of administrators, an incredible office, but more so just an incredible community. This tower, to me, it's a beacon of what happens when you synergize, what happens when people come together and dream big. This is Randolph Eastern. This is the far eastern part of the county that also oftentimes feels forgotten. And here we stand together with folks from not only our community, but the county and from the state level, recognizing the work to make this a reality. When we established this plan for a broadband tower, I think people thought we were a little crazy, and rightfully so, because I think in the greater world, and if you get into Marion County and those folks, they don't understand the need or the lack of access to internet in rural areas. It is real. It's a real problem for our students. We are 74% free and reduced, so that increases the struggle even more so. So again, this is just an opportunity that we saw in the midst of the crisis that the pandemic brought to us. And my team and I played a very small role in that. That's why I have a very small role in this ribbon cutting ceremony. But this was just an opportunity we seized. And our hope is that in the end, it impacts student achievement that it removes barriers that our students face every single day, whether it's doing homework, trying to do schoolwork during e-learning when it's snowing outside, or heaven forbid we have to live through another pandemic and we have to go online for long periods of time. This will be a piece of the puzzle to eliminate those barriers and at the end impact student achievement.
As Director of the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, I'm proud to work with a team that is focused on Governor Holcomb's key initiatives and those of the Lieutenant Governor as well. They are ensuring greater access to reliable and affordable broadband service in rural communities throughout our state. And through the Governor's Emergency Relief, Education Relief Fund, provided by the K.I.S.S Act, the state of Indiana was partnered to provide $121,500 for this project and support greater connectivity between your school and your students. So I want to congratulate Superintendent Black on this project, but the entire team that it takes to make something like this happen, and to the Randolph Eastern School Corporation. Thank you for supporting this effort to build broadband, to build this tower, and to ensure that your students for a long term can log in and learn, and a bright future awaits here in your community because of this bold effort by your part. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and on behalf of the state of Indiana and Governor Holcomb and Lieutenant Governor Crouch, I say congratulations. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's installment of our Cable Chatter tonight. My name is Braydon Hoggatt and I'm going to be joined by Mr. Blake Clevenger and Mr. Andy Stover, and we are going to be talking about the Broadband Initiative. First of all, to get us started, would you guys like to talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Like you said, I'm Blake Clevenger. I'm the Technology Coordinator here at Randolph Eastern Schools.
And I'm Andy Stover. I'm the Director of STEM Integration and Grant Management here at Randolph Eastern Schools.
Alrighty, so like I said before, we are going to be talking about the Broadband Initiative tonight. Would you guys be able to explain your guys' roles came to fruition with the big tower that was erected out back?
So if we want to kind of roll this back to kind of the very beginning and kind of how things came about, we were in the midst of the pandemic. We ran into some difficulty with some things, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we decided to utilize some grant funding to build this broadband tower, and partnered with the county and everything else. And that's the overarching piece. But I remember, and we sat down by the central office and we're trying to figure out how to solve the connectivity issue with our students and the students that couldn't get access and couldn't do what they needed to do. And you had just found some information that we were going to try to use to help that. So if you want to talk about the grant that we were able to tap into.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the midst of the pandemic, one thing that we realized very quickly was we had insufficient internet or broadband connectivity to our students out in the rural areas of Union City. So with that being said, the first thing that I was trying to formulate was maybe getting Verizon hotspots or finding an alternative for our students to kind of get close to those devices, be able to use it and be able to submit their assignments. And my first idea for that was to have 4 or 5 of our school buses here in the district push out throughout all over Union City, and basically have those as hotspot locations and have our families and our students come in, utilize those hotspots, and be able to do that. When I brought that to Blake, and Blake's pretty savvy with connectivity and Verizon Wireless and AT&T, and the one thing we realized after our discussion was the fact that the hotspots really aren't that strong in this area. For whatever reason, with us being on the border of Indiana and Ohio, a lot of the broadband, or a lot of the towers from those wireless providers push out to the opposite direction. So we were pretty much in a dead spot, a dead zone for connectivity. And the difficult thing is we pushed out our students to go back home and obtain their learning in a virtual platform. What happened was we did have some families that didn't have the adequate internet or internet at all. So basically, Blake and I sat down and we brainstormed some ideas, and the grant that we were going for, it was titled the GEAR grant, and that's the Governor's Emergency Educational Relief Grant. And basically what that was supposed to be, it was to provide educational solutions during the pandemic to support student learning. The grant itself was open for any educational institution. It was open for any school district as well as secondary education. So some of the recipients that did receive that grant were Ball State University, IU University, Indianapolis, IUPUI, as well as a large amount of school districts throughout the state. We were fortunate enough to receive $122,500. But before all of that came to fruition, it literally started with Blake and I sitting at a table and brainstorming some ideas. And the funny thing is, the way it started out was, it started with the idea, like I said, the buses, the hot spots, and doing that. And what Blake threw my direction was something I had never thought of in my entire life. And I'll kind of let Blake dive into that right now, because honestly, it was my part of the puzzle was doing the legwork, writing the grant, and getting a lot of sponsorship and commitment from local industries, as well as Senator Jeff Rotz and J.D. Prescott. We had a lot of people that helped out, as well as our economic development, Missy Williams and C.N. Bell. So they did a really good job with that. But it was Blake's idea. I will say that Blake was the brainchild for this idea. It was my writing and his thoughts. So I'll let Blake kind of describe this and how it worked.
Yeah, so I mean, we had, at that point, we had a small tower that had been part of our green energy, wind energy initiative. And we were using that for our offsite backup and we had some other small wireless projects. And you know, if you're out in the country in Randolph County, your best option really is like New Lisbon Wireless, or I think Watch Communications is in the area now. But your option is a wireless internet provider. And so I was like, well, we can use. I mean, we're reaching out to our offsite backup, which is like 3 miles away, and use some wireless technology for that. What if we took that and turned that up a lot? I mean, it's not something that we've experimented with it. It's not something I'm super familiar with, but you know, that's what we do kind of here at Randolph Eastern, is we take a risk. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, but the goal is for the kids and for the students. It's like, okay, so let's see if we can get this. We can share our internet that we have with families that need it, because it was the pandemic. This was different than our traditional e-learning. Traditional e-learning is it's 1 or 2 days, maybe it's a snow day, or it's even planned. You know, some of the kids will go to grandma's house or go to their friend's house, and this is a different situation. It's not, they're not supposed to do that. They shouldn't be moving around because of the potential of the spread, especially as we understood at that point. And so we needed to get homes connected so they could learn remotely. And so we decided to try what some other companies have been trying in Randolph County and see if we can provide that access.
And to kind of piggyback off of that, the neat thing is it all seemed to fall in place at the right time. So the grant itself became available on August 19th, 2020. So that's a couple months after the pandemic had hit. So what we're trying to do is figure out how this is going to work out. Blake's trying to work with different companies, various companies, on getting quotes and seeing what we could potentially do. And I'll be honest with you, when we first put together the grant itself, we were thinking $20,000 or $30,000. We were thinking something very, well, I mean, that's not a small number, but in terms of a district and trying to reach 875 plus kids, that's pretty expensive. So we end up calling around and we got some quotes, and we had some astronomical quotes of $250,000, $260,000. We were able to work with a vendor that actually brought it down to that $122,000, $130,000 range. And then where it all fell into place is we started talking with Randolph Economic, which is Randolph United now. And when we started having those conversations, they were like, you know what? The county's actually doing this initiative. We already have a procurement of vendors and everything. They've went through the procurement process. They've got all that stuff prepared. It's already packaged. We're actually having our last meeting. Would you guys be willing to just join in with this meeting? So we ended up joining this meeting, and basically they had the vendors all lined up. They had all the materials ready. All we had to do was sign the dotted line and say, hey, we want to be a part of this. This is what we have to do. So basically when all that took place, we were in a position where we can jump right on board and get the purchases. So when people are like, how did you get that tower built so quickly? It was just, it was a really neat thing of how it turned out, because all the materials were pretty much readily available. We just jumped in at the right time, and Randolph County, I mean, they welcomed us with open arms. They said, go ahead and jump in with us, and then the rest is history. I mean, we have an 180-foot tower in our backyard because of that process and how quickly it kind of transpired.
It was really neat to see how that all worked together. And the county, again, the county was great. Randolph County United was great in working with us, and really did their best to help make sure there was any minor roadblocks were taken care of, whether that was zoning and things like that. Because we're not. This is the first time we've ever done anything like that. We're not tower builders. This isn't something we do every day. And none of us had gone through a building project. Mr. Black hadn't either, and so we didn't know much about zoning. I know I didn't. I'd been through one, but I wasn't on that side of it, and so we learned a lot in the process. But we had good help and good people trying to help get us to that point, and that's what brought us to our kind of that March dedication. We've got a tower. Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Now, you guys have been talking about how you received so much help from Randolph United, and how they were going to be talking about putting some stuff up similar to this throughout the county. But do you guys know of any other counties, or even just like school districts in the state that have been doing this? Or do you know if we're, I guess, revolutionizing the idea and kind of bringing it forth into Indiana?
I mean, honestly, when we first started creating this project, it seemed like it was from scratch. It was something unique. It was something that that was, I guess, we brainstormed. We didn't necessarily think that any other district was doing something of this. And honestly, it wasn't a matter of us trying to be pioneers. It was us trying to find a solution to something that we currently had, or a solution to a current issue we had. And doing that, we brainstormed this. We didn't even know if it was going to work. I mean, honestly, that's kind of the neat thing with coming up with new ideas. We had the idea and we wanted to run with it, and then we started getting support behind us, and then he started doing his research, and it all started to fall in place. I do know that there's roughly 2 or 3 districts that use point-to-point connections that I know of, and Blake might know some more, and I'll let him kind of elaborate on that, because some districts that have multiple different buildings, they'll do point-to-point connections. So you might have a high school, a central office, 2 elementaries, and they'll push out their internet point-to-point that way. But in terms of actually pulling your own internal internet that we have in our district and pushing that out to our students, as far as I know, I'm not entirely sure that there's anything like that.
No, and I know talking to, there's a lot of districts that do point-to-point connections, and I know the company that we used that helped us hang our equipment on the tower, that was kind of point-to-point connections and towers for that purpose was kind of their bread and butter, so to speak. And so this is one of the early times that they've been involved in the kind of what's called the wireless ISP or WISP or world. So we're all kind of working on this and figuring it out together. I know Mr. Black mentioned that he's had a fair number of inquiries. There's a lot of people watching what we're doing here to see if this is a valid or viable option that they can utilize for their district and to solve the same problems they have. Rural communities, this is an issue.
Now, I did have the opportunity to be a part of the ribbon cutting, correct? That's it. Yeah. That's what. And it was pretty amazing to see the people that came down from Indianapolis to be a part of that ribbon cutting. If you guys don't mind, kind of hitting that more in depth, like who were the people that were able to make it down from the state's offices? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that seemed like a pretty big deal for them to come down here and join us in our small community for something so big to be happening, I guess.
So it was definitely a neat event, and I don't remember all the names. There was a lot of nice individuals that came, and we got a chance to kind of give them a tour of Randolph Eastern and show them what we're doing here, all the way out on the Ohio line. And I definitely know some of those individuals were happy to come out. They like to see what's going on, because there was a lot of folks that used the gear funds to buy Chromebooks, to do things that we had already done. And so what we were doing was a different thing entirely. And there was a couple grants like that, but this was one of the ones that was totally different from what everybody else was doing. So they were really, I think, a lot of them were excited to come down and see what we were doing. I know Ernie Holtree was here.
Denny Spinner.
Denny Spinner.
Colette Childress from Okra. And then we also had a representative from the agricultural
That's right.
committee from the state of Indiana. So it was neat having those people here. I mean, honestly, the biggest thing for them was they're pushing a big initiative for better infrastructure. It's a state initiative that they're really pushing right now. The governor's workforce cabinet is really trying to bolster this as well as next level jobs. And what they're trying to do is they see the concern with rural internet in general, because, and I've heard this from multiple people, I cannot claim this as my own, but a lot of people are referring to this as the electricity of 1900. A lot of rural homes didn't have electricity to go out to their house in rural homes, and now we're starting to see that with our internet, and we're trying to bolster that infrastructure. So in doing that, a lot of the state representatives want to come because, like Blake said, we're doing something different. A lot of people got this grant funding. They took care of technology within their district, Chromebooks and things like that, even the hotspots that I had mentioned. However, putting up a broadband tower and pushing out your own internet was something that was unheard of. So with that being said, it was with the help of our Randolph United to push that and let people know. So we were able to have the ribbon cutting and have them in here. So it went full circle. It was really neat to have those people in here, and it was. I can't sit here and say that was due in part to Blake and I. Blake and I did all the work to get to do this, but it was a lot of community support to get those people in here to highlight the things that we did.
Now, sorry, were you okay? Now, we've been talking about how it's going to be affecting us in the near future, but how do you guys see this as an opening, as a gateway into what the community is going to be trying to do next, I guess, as like a next big project to help us further our growth in a way?
Well, at the moment, and we may talk about this a little bit more later. I don't want to jump the gun, but we're at the we had our dedication. The tower's up. The equipment is now on the tower. We're at a rubber meets the road type situation is what I like to call it. We're at let's get homes and families and let's watch this thing work. And so the burden is now kind of on my department and our folks, and we're doing the best we can to figure this thing out and get homes connected. We definitely have a couple sites on right now, and we're hoping to have, by the time this goes out, we're hoping to have some more and really see how this is going to work. And like I said earlier, I mean, this is a risk. This is something that we're trying, and it may not go as well as we hope. It may go really well. I mean, we're going to do our best effort and do all the work we can to make this work for our students and our citizens here. And as far as what does this mean for the future? What does this mean for the future of Randolph Eastern, Union City, and Randolph County? It shows that Randolph Eastern is willing to take a risk, willing to try and do whatever it takes within the best of our ability to help bridge that gap and educate our students. That's why I'm here, and the reason I love working here is that it's the unifying goal. We're gonna do the best we can and work the hardest we can for our kids and get them an education. And I think all of our teachers and all our people are on board with that, and I think that's why it's a unique and special place to work. That's our goal. It's not that there are disagreements, but we all are unified behind the goal of that target. I don't know, Andy, what you want to add? Or
yeah, I think Blake hit the nail on the head, and I think that the other thing is, the end goal for this project, and I know that your question was in the future, but the immediate future was to provide educational solutions for our kids in a moment of need. And what we saw was, if we're in a situation where we have to push out assignments and curriculum and things like that, we want to make sure we have all of our covers, or all of our bases covered when we do that, because ultimately, if a student's at home and they need to do their homework, we want to make sure we're providing adequate internet. And then we had a couple other initiatives that we've been working through. So there's really no excuse for a kid to get an education if we do end up having to be quarantined or people have to go home. So our biggest thing was break through the barriers, provide the best education to our kids on a platform that's sustainable and it's easy to use, and that's kind of where we were at. In terms of the future with this, I think Blake was also hit the nail on the head with the fact that we're progressive. We're looking for changes. We're looking for new things to do. Even if it's things that we might be uncertain of, we'll work, we'll rally up, we'll get the village together, we'll find out what we need to come to that solution, but at least we know we have the commitment from everyone around.
Yeah, and I think, as we look towards the future, it has brought us closer. I think it's given us a closer connection to the county's initiatives, because as far as we had Randolph County United on the show the last episode, I want to say, and broadband internet is one of the 5 major concerns of Randolph County citizens, and so it brings us into that world that we're doing what we can to try to bridge that gap. I know I'm on the broadband committee for Randolph County now, and we're trying to do our best to figure out what we can do to help solve connectivity issues, and Randolph Eastern's playing our part, and it's given us more options and things we can do as we also work with the city. As eventually we're going to have a show on Vision Corner. I know I've been saying that a couple times, but the tower is going to give us the option to connect to that location, or hopefully give us the option to do some more K.I.S.S remotes and things like that, to spread out not only just internet, but to spread out the opportunities we have within the city and within our area.
Mm-hmm. And one last thing to add to that, and that was a very good point. I think that the other thing we're really working towards is making Union City, Randolph County as a whole, appealing to people of your generation. So when you graduate, you go to college, you obtain your degree, we want to make sure that Randolph County, specifically Union City for us, and no offense to everyone else, but we want to have a quality of life that's appealing to a 23-year-old that's going to come into this area, because we're in a global economy where you can live in Union City and work in Tokyo virtually. Yeah. And that's what we're looking at. That's the world we live in today. So so with this effort, and I know that this is a small scale in comparison to that, but if we can prove that we can push out broadband internet from what we have internally here, who's to say that the state of Indiana can't push it out into every corner of the entire state to have it appealing for people to want to come back to Union City, Indiana, and work from home and be able to do that stuff. And we're getting closer to do that. And I would hope that the state officials that came in to do the ribbon cutting are aware of that, and they're like, wow, if a school can do it, then we can do this on a much greater scale. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully that gets the creative juices flowing and gets people interested in doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, is there anything you guys wanted to let everybody else know at home? Anything else, any other information sort of thing?
There's been a lot of questions, and as soon as the ribbon cutting happened, within weeks, my phone rang, and I had some individuals that, hey, can I get internet? And we're in the situation. Steve Barnes, who works for New Lisbon, told me as we were working on this. He said, you're going to find out that it's not as easy as it might look, and he's absolutely right. And I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but there's definitely more challenges than I anticipated. You think 180 feet, that's tall. 165 feet water tower, that's tall. Well, yes, but we got a lot of tall trees too that are everywhere, and so it becomes an issue of, can you see the water towers? Can you see the tower on the backside of the school? What are our options? So there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle that we're still kind of working out. We're finding some of our families that have a really good location that we can kick the tires on and make sure that what we're providing is adequate. And I want folks to know that this might not be a replacement for your home internet or whatever. This is the primary thrust, and the goal is to make sure students can learn and do what they need to do and get an education. Now, if that provides you internet as well within our capability, then that's a bonus, and we'd love to be able to provide that. But that our primary focus is going to be for student education. And if we can offer the tower up to other vendors or cellular vendors or whatever, that definitely on our radar, and we'd love to do that. But I know for our focus is going to be kind of that educational piece. I don't want to let anybody down or promise more than I can deliver. And right now, figuring out what I can deliver is its own piece of the puzzle. But we're doing the best we can and trying to get people going as quickly as we feel is safe, and maintain our world inside the building. There's a lot of people inside the building, and 850 Chromebooks and teachers that need our support, and so what I would love to have, accomplished already has kind of had to take a backseat sometimes to the daily educational needs, because that's what we're here for. And so sometimes I'd love to be further along in this project, but there's just a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and honestly, the biggest thing is patience and grace. As we go through this is uncharted territory, this is uncharted waters, and with Blake and his tech staff, they're not broadband professionals. I mean, honestly,
No.
they have a good knowledge base when it comes to technology and the things, and they're working through this, and I think they're in a good place right now. Obviously, we have locations that are operational right now that have good bandwidth, but at the end of the day, like Blake said, we have a corporation run. They have their own issues within the tech department. They've got a lot of things they've got to do. So with that patience and grace is understanding where we're at, and we're working as hard as we can. It didn't happen as quickly because we can't focus 100% of our time on that. So we have to allocate our time depending on what our jobs are, and we'll get there. It's just a little bit of patience.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. I think that's going to be the end of our segment this week. If you guys would like to find some more information, please visit our website or our Facebook page. And lastly, I'd like to thank you guys for both being here on this week's installment of Cable Chatter, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brady.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah.